The entire alien empire watched in silence. Millions stared at the execution platform floating above Earth. One human knelt in chains, surrounded by the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. Above him hovered plasma cannons. The alien emperor smiled. "Any final words, human?" The man looked up. Not afraid. Not broken. And then, a massive shadow appeared in the sky. A dragon. Ancient. Golden. Terrifying. It descended like living fire. And before anyone could react, the emperor fired. The plasma round meant for the humans struck the dragon's heart. The beast crashed to the ground. The human screamed. But what happened next? Destroyed an empire that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Earth had not fallen slowly. It had fallen in only 3 days. 3 days was all it took for the Xerox Empire to erase everything humanity had built across centuries. On the first day their ships appeared. Thousands of black war vessels tearing through Earth's skies like wounds opening across the clouds. On the second day every defense system failed. Missiles vanished before reaching their targets. Fighter jets were burned from the sky. Entire armies disappeared under storms of blue plasma fire. And on the third day, the world went silent. Cities that once glowed with life became smoking ruins. Governments collapsed. Communication towers died. And the human race learned what true helplessness felt like. The aliens moved quickly after that. Survivors were rounded up like animals. Families were separated. Children screamed for parents they would never see again. Anyone who resisted was erased where they stood. Among the endless lines of prisoners was Ethan Voss. He was not a soldier. He was not one of the men who had stood behind weapons trying to defend Earth. He was only an engineer. A quiet man who spent most of his life fixing broken machines and dreaming of building better ones. When the invasion began, he had been inside a power station beneath Chicago trying to keep the city grid alive. By the time he reached the surface, the city was gone. Now he stood in chains aboard a Xerox prison transport heading into deep space. No one told the prisoners where they were going. But they found out soon enough. The dead moon of Korvuk. A barren gray world circling a dying red star. There was no sky there. Only darkness and dust. No wind. No sound. Only the endless grinding of mining machines cutting into the moon's surface. The humans were forced underground. Hour after hour they dug through rock searching for star crystals. Rare glowing minerals the Xerox used to power their empire. The work was brutal. The air was thin. The food barely enough to keep them standing. Everyday prisoners collapsed from exhaustion. And everyday alien guards dragged their bodies away without a word. Most humans stopped speaking after the first week. Hope disappeared quickly on Korvuk. But Ethan noticed something strange. At first it was only a sound. So faint he thought exhaustion was playing tricks on him. A low, heavy rumble deep beneath the mine. Like distant thunder trapped inside the stone. Then he heard it again the next night. And the night after that. It was not the sound of machines. It was slower. Almost like breathing. Huge. The sound haunted him. While others slept in silence, Ethan stayed awake listening to it echo through the tunnels. Something was down there. Something the aliens were hiding. And Ethan needed to know what it was. One cycle later he got his chance. A tunnel collapse separated him from the rest of his work crew. The dust was thick. The alarms failed. And for the first time no guards could see him. Instead of calling for help, Ethan followed the sound. Step by careful step he moved deeper into the darkness. Past broken support beams. Past abandoned excavation shafts. Until he reached a wall of black crystal unlike anything he had ever seen. At its center was a narrow opening. And beyond it, a cavern so vast it vanished into shadow. Then he saw it. At first his mind refused to understand what his eyes were seeing. Chains thicker than tree trunks stretched across the cavern floor. And at their center lay a creature from ancient human myth. A dragon. Massive beyond belief. Its body covered in scarred golden scales now faded and cracked. Its wings torn and pinned by glowing restraints. Its chest rose and fell with slow, painful breaths. This was no beast. This was something far older. far greater. His eyes opened. Two glowing pools of molten gold locking onto Ethan. He froze. Unable to move. Unable to breathe. The dragon studied him in silence. And then something impossible happened. It lowered its head. Not as a predator. Not as a prisoner broken by pain. But as if it had been waiting for him. Waiting through endless years of darkness. For this exact moment. And inside Ethan's mind a voice whispered. "Alas, a human has come." Ethan should have run. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to turn back and disappear into the tunnels before the alien guards found him. But he could not move. Those golden eyes held him in place. Ancient and powerful. Yet filled with something he never expected to see in a creature so massive. Then the voice came again. Not through the air. Not through sound. But directly into his mind. Clear as his own thoughts. "Do not fear me." Ethan stumbled backward. His heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. The dragon had not opened its mouth. Its gaze never shifted. Yet the words echoed inside his head. "For you." Ethan whispered the question though he already feared the answer. The creature lifted its scarred head as much as the chains allowed. Last son of the solar throne. The final royal dragon. The name sent a strange chill through Ethan. As if something ancient and forgotten had just awakened inside him. Night after night he returned to the hidden cavern. At first he came only for answers. But with every visit he learned more of the terrible truth. Long before humans ever reached the stars, the dragons ruled no empire. They ruled balance. They were guardians of countless worlds. Keepers of cosmic order. Their fire-powered suns. Their presence kept peace across the galaxy. Then came the Xerox. Hungry for power. They offered alliance. And when the dragons trusted them, they betrayed them. Royal nests were burned. Entire bloodlines slaughtered. The survivors were chained and drained. Their life force twisted into fuel for the very empire that destroyed them. Oryx had been captured during the final battle. Held beneath Korvac for decades. His power slowly stolen to feed Xerox warships and weapons. "Why tell me this?" Ethan asked one night. "Because of what you are." Oryx answered. The dragon explained that humans carried a rare energy signature unlike any species in the galaxy. A spark hidden deep in their nature. But incredibly powerful. Dragons could bond with that energy. And when they did, their strength multiplied beyond measure. The Xerox had never discovered this. Because they had wiped out most dragons before humanity even existed. At first Ethan struggled to believe it. He was no hero, no chosen warrior, just a man trapped on a dead moon. But something inside him felt the truth. And so he kept coming back. Each night he stole scraps of food from supply bins, water from guard stations, tools from abandoned maintenance shafts. He used his engineering skills to weaken the energy locks binding Oryx. Carefully, quietly, always watching for surveillance drones. As the weeks passed, the dragon changed. Its scales regained their golden shine. Its breathing grew stronger. Its eyes burned brighter. And so did Ethan. The strange connection between them deepened. He could feel Oryx's emotions now. His anger, his grief, his determination. And Oryx could sense Ethan's thoughts. His fear for Earth. His loneliness. His growing hope. What began as cautious trust became friendship. Then something even deeper. A brotherhood forged in darkness. Together they planned escape. Ethan mapped the prison tunnels. Oryx measured the cycles of guard patrols. The final night was chosen. Everything was ready. Then betrayal struck. As Ethan entered the cavern carrying the last control device needed to shatter Oryx's chains. The lights exploded on around him. Dozens of plasma rifles locked onto his chest. At their center stood Commander Varric, the prison master. His cold reptilian face twisted into a cruel smile. The human and his pet. Ethan fought. But he never stood a chance. He was beaten. Dragged through the prison as every human prisoner watched in horror. Hours later, he was thrown before the holographic image of the Xerox Emperor himself. The sentence was immediate. Execution above the ruins of Earth. broadcast across the galaxy. A warning to every human still alive. And as Ethan was hauled away, he looked back one last time, toward the hidden cavern, where Oryx roared so violently the entire moon trembled. Forced to remain in chains. Forced to watch as the only human who had ever shown him kindness was taken to die. The execution platform hovered high above Earth. A black steel fortress floating in the silence of space. Below it the planet turned slowly, scarred and broken. Its once bright cities now dark ruins scattered across continents. Smoke still rose from places where millions had made their final stand. For humanity, this was meant to be the last lesson. The Xerox Empire had made sure every surviving world could see it. Massive holographic screens burned across the galaxy, broadcasting the moment live. Billions watched. Humans in prison camps. Alien citizens in distant systems. Even the commanders of war fleets paused to witness what their emperor promised would be the final crushing of human resistance. At the center of the platform stood Ethan Voss. His hands bound behind his back with glowing restraints. His face bruised. His body weak from days of torture. Yet he stood straight, his eyes fixed on Earth below. He refused to kneel. That alone angered the emperor. Seated upon his floating throne of obsidian metal, the ruler of the Xerox Empire stared down at him with cold amusement. Emperor Xerox had ruled for 10,000 years. Entire civilizations had fallen before him. Species had vanished at his command. And now one human engineer dared stand before him without fear. The emperor rose slowly. In his clawed hand appeared a plasma cannon forged from dragon energy itself. Its core pulsed with cruel blue fire. He stepped closer. His voice thundered across every screen. Let this be the end of human resistance. A warning to all who dream of defiance. He raised the cannon. The weapon hummed louder, charging for a direct shot to Ethan's heart. Around the platform, alien soldiers watched in silence, waiting for the blast, waiting for the end. Ethan closed his eyes, not in surrender, but in acceptance. His final thought was not for himself. It was for Oryx, still trapped on Korvac, still chained in darkness. Then everything changed. A sound ripped through space. A roar so powerful it shook the platform itself. Every soldier looked upward. The stars vanished behind a wave of blazing gold. Something massive tore through orbit like a falling sun. The Emperor barely had time to react. He fired. The plasma blast shot toward Ethan, a streak of blue death. And then Oryx appeared. The dragon smashed through the platform shields in an explosion of fire and shattered metal. His golden wings spread wide. His body burned brighter than any star. And with one desperate motion, he threw himself in front of Ethan. The plasma round struck his chest. The impact was devastating. A shockwave blasted across the platform. Alien soldiers were hurled through the air. Steel supports twisted. The entire fortress groaned. Oryx crashed to the ground, his massive body skidding across the platform, golden blood spilling across black metal. For a moment, the galaxy went silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The last royal dragon had fallen. Ethan screamed. The sound tore from him like his soul was being ripped apart. Ignoring the restraints burning his wrists, he dropped to his knees beside Oryx. The dragon's chest rose weakly, each breath slower than the last. His once blazing eyes were fading. Ethan whispered, "Please no." Oryx turned his head slightly, looking at the human who had become his brother. Then his voice entered Ethan's mind one final time. Steady. Filled with pride. "My fire is yours now." Before Ethan could answer, Oryx's body began to glow. The light spread across every scale. Brighter, hotter, until his entire form dissolved into pure golden energy. It surged forward like a living storm, straight into Ethan. The moment it touched him, pain exploded through every cell. His body arched back. A cry of raw agony and power shook the heavens. Golden flames erupted from his skin. The restraints vaporized instantly. The platform trembled. Metal melted beneath his feet. The air itself seemed to ignite. The Emperor staggered backward, For the first time in 10,000 years, fear crossed his face. Because when Ethan opened his eyes again, they burned with dragon fire. Ethan rose from the shattered platform like something no longer human. Golden fire wrapped around his body, not burning him, transforming him. The air screamed with heat. Steel beneath his feet glowed red and began to melt. His chains were already gone. Reduced to smoke the instant Oryx's power entered him. For a moment he simply stood there, his fists clenched, his eyes blazing brighter than the stars themselves. He could feel it, the fire, the rage, the endless strength flowing through every part of him. And beneath it all, not as a voice, not as words, but as presence, still with him, still guiding him. The Emperor stumbled backward across the ruined platform, his face pale with fear. Fire. The Emperor shouted. Dozens of alien soldiers raised their plasma rifles at once. They unleashed a storm of blue energy, enough firepower to level a city. The blast struck Ethan directly and vanished, swallowed by the golden flames surrounding him. The soldiers froze in horror. Ethan slowly lifted one hand and closed his fingers. The platform exploded. A wave of dragonfire ripped outward in every direction. Alien soldiers vanished instantly, reduced to ash before they could even scream. Massive towers collapsed into molten wreckage. The execution fortress cracked apart, breaking into burning pieces that fell toward Earth below. The Emperor turned and ran. He leapt onto his command shuttle as alarms screamed through the ship. Launch now. The engines ignited. The vessel shot into deep space. But Ethan was already moving. He launched into the void like a streak of living sunlight. No ship, no suit, no hesitation, only pure fire and fury. He chased the Emperor across the stars. Xerok defense fleets intercepted him within minutes. Thousands of warships forming a wall of steel across space. Their cannons charged, then opened fire. Entire galaxies had fallen before that fleet. But Ethan flew straight through it. Golden flames tore through shields as if they were mist. Warships exploded around him like sparks in darkness. He ripped battlecruisers apart with his bare hands, burned through command decks from the inside, sent moon-sized stations crashing into one another. Every dragon reactor he touched erupted in chains of golden fire. And as each reactor died, the Empire weakened. Across countless systems lights failed. Defense grids collapsed. Prison worlds lost power. Slave camps opened. And for the first time in centuries, the oppressed rose. Alien workers rebelled. Captured species seized control of ships. Entire planets declared freedom. The Xerok Empire was crumbling from within. All because one human carried a dragon's wrath. The Emperor fled to the imperial capital, a fortress world at the center of the galaxy. There he made his final stand. Waiting atop the great citadel was the Starbreaker cannon, the ultimate Xerok weapon. A machine so massive it stretched across half the planet, powered by the stolen life force of thousands of dragons. Its barrel slowly turned, aiming directly at Earth. If he could not rule humanity, he would erase it forever. The Emperor stood before the controls as Ethan descended from orbit in a storm of gold. One more step, the Emperor hissed, and your world dies. The cannon charged, space itself trembling with its power. But Ethan did not stop. He surged forward, faster than thought, golden fire blazing brighter than a newborn sun. He drove both hands into the cannon's core and released everything Oryx had given him. The weapon melted, its steel frame turning liquid in seconds, its energy collapsing inward. The explosion lit the capital world like daylight. When the fire cleared, the cannon was gone. The Emperor dropped to his knees. His power, his fleet, his empire, all destroyed. He looked up at Ethan, at those burning dragon eyes. And for the first time in his long, cruel life, please. Ethan stood silent. The memory of Oryx crashing to the platform filled his mind. The sacrifice, the pain, the final words. And in that moment, he made his choice. The Emperor knelt in silence, His claws trembled against the shattered floor of his ruined citadel. All around him the heart of the Xeroc Empire burned. Towers that had stood for thousands of years collapsed into rivers of molten metal. Warships fell from orbit like broken stars. The sky itself glowed red with the fire of an empire dying. And standing before it all was Ethan Voss, wrapped in golden flame, his eyes burning with the power of Aurex. The Emperor lowered his head, waiting for death. He had watched countless enemies beg for mercy over the centuries. Now he was the one pleading. He whispered. But Ethan did not move. Death would be too easy, too fast, too merciful. Instead, Ethan reached forward and placed one glowing hand on the Emperor's forehead. The alien ruler screamed as dragon fire surged through him. Not enough to kill. Enough to strip everything away. The power stolen from dragons. The unnatural life that had kept him alive for 10,000 years. The strength that had made him feared across the stars. Gone in an instant. His armor cracked and fell apart. His body shrank. His scales dulled. He became what he truly was beneath all that stolen power. Fragile. Then Ethan made him watch. Across every surviving screen in the galaxy, the final judgment was broadcast. The Emperor saw prison worlds opening their gates. Saw alien commanders dropping their weapons. Saw entire fleets shutting down and surrendering. One by one the systems he had conquered broke free. The banners of the Xeroc Empire were torn down. Slave camps were destroyed. Families long separated were reunited. Civilizations that had spent centuries under chains stood beneath open skies once more. And with each world freed, the Emperor understood. His empire was not being defeated. It was being erased. When the final transmission ended, Ethan spoke, his voice calm. Certain. You will live. The Emperor looked up in confusion. Death would have made you a martyr. You will face what Aurex faced. Alone. Forgotten. Broken. Days later, a single prison shuttle descended onto the dead moon of Korvac. The same barren wasteland where Aurex had spent decades in chains. The hatch opened, and the former Emperor was thrown into the dust. No guards. No servants. No weapons. Only endless silence. And the dark tunnels below. The shuttle rose and vanished into the stars, leaving him alone on the prison world he had once ruled through fear. Justice had been delivered, not revenge. Weeks passed, the months. Earth slowly came back to life. The broken cities were rebuilt stronger than before. Alien technology once used to enslave humanity was repurposed to heal the planet. The skies cleared. Lights returned. Children laughed in streets that had once burned. And everywhere people spoke the same name. Ethan Voss. The human dragon. Some called him a warrior. Others called him a legend. But Ethan wanted none of it. After the war he disappeared from the public eye. Traveling quietly between liberated worlds. Helping rebuild what the Xeroc had destroyed. Always carrying Aurex's fire within him. Always honoring the dragon who had given everything. Yet far from Earth. Deep beneath the silent caverns of Korvac. Something stirred. In the chamber where Aurex had once been chained. A single golden egg rested untouched among the shadows. It had been hidden beneath the crystal floor all along. Protected by ancient dragon magic. Waiting. For the right moment. Then one quiet cycle. A crack appeared across its glowing shell. Another followed. Golden light spilled into the darkness. And from within emerged a tiny hatchling. No larger than a wolf. Its scales shimmered like liquid sunlight. Its small wings unfolded slowly. The creature blinked, lifted its head, and looked toward the distant stars. To Earth. Its eyes glowed with the same golden fire as Aurex. The same fire now burning inside Ethan. Because the bond had not ended with sacrifice. It had only passed forward. A new chapter had begun. And somewhere across the galaxy, the human dragon felt it. The faint pulse of life. The call of a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The story was not over. It was only beginning.